welcome to Digging Deeper with Backyard Farmer. I'm your host, Kim Todd. On Digging Deeper, we have those in-depth discussions with extension and industry experts about important landscape topics. Tonight, we'll be talking about a wonderful thing with Jay Schwanke. He is a very, very special guest. We have had Jay, who is a Nebraska boy or man at this point. We've had him in Lincoln a lot of different times, and of course we're Zooming because he doesn't live here anymore. But he has this fabulous, fabulous title, which doesn't even do him justice. He's sort of the flower person. And of course he has his own television show, and he's on YouTube and all these great things. And so it is my pleasure to actually have Jay and to be able to talk to him from Michigan, right, Jay?
Right, Grand Rapids. Thanks, Kim. You're like family. It's family time, right? Yeah,
well,
Nebraska. Wow, I love that.
And it's not the same thing as being able to sit and watch you do all your magic with plant material and talk to the audience and tell us all wonderful things about what you do and then help us feel part of your family. But maybe that's one of the very good things about Zoom. We probably wouldn't have gotten to get you at all if we would have said, gosh, Jay, drive to Nebraska for 20 minutes and then go home if you don't have time to see your family.
Well, and hopefully I'll get back there one of these days and we'll actually do that in person. So I would love it. I would love it.
That would be fabulous. So what we really want to have you concentrate on is what you're best at, Jay, and that is life in bloom. And what exactly is the connection between all of those fabulous flowers and making people feel better, helping them feel better, making life in general be something that just puts a smile on your face every day? Let's talk about that.
Awesome. So, it's so interesting. For about 2 decades, a wonderful lady named Dr. Haviland Jones did a lot of studies about flowers and how they help us with our health and wellness benefits. And she worked with Rutgers University, with Boston University. Then there were other people who picked up on the research she was doing to do extra research and found that when we have flowers in our presence, we feel happier. Obviously, flowers make us happy, but they also make us feel less depressed. They can reduce our stress levels. They can make us feel creative, and especially more creative, or help us find solutions at work when we have a few flowers on our desk. They help us enlarge our circles of friends. They, older people, seniors, it helps them reach out for health, with health problems that they would have, to seek more advice about that. Homes that have flowers in them have less arguments. So I always joke with guys that I think that it's important that when you bring home flowers, you might get pie. That would be a really good thing, right? I love pie. Pie is one of my favorite things. And I know that when I bring home flowers, I'm going to get pie. So yeah, the health and wellness benefits are astounding, actually. We've compiled them all at ubloom.com. We have a special link, ubloom.com/research, where I compiled all of them. And you can go and you can read them and see more about it. Because I think it's fascinating that flowers truly are powerful. We talk about flower power and, the 60s and the 70s, but it's true. Those flowers have the power to alter or change our life and give us health and wellness benefits. So those existed, and I felt like nobody was really talking about them. And so when we did the pilot for Jay Schwanke's Life in Bloom, we focused on those health and wellness benefits. And actually, our entire second season was all about the health and wellness benefits. And it coincided with the pandemic, which that was not something that I planned, not something that I knew about, but it was something that was extremely wonderful because we get hundreds of emails and pieces of mail every week from people telling me how great the flowers make them feel.
Well, and that's just fabulous because, none of us really expected a pandemic. And,
right.
16 million new gardeners last year. And now, of course, we're in the second season. We're hoping we keep those gardeners. And a part of that would be, maybe you don't want to grow something to eat. Maybe you just want something that is absolutely beautiful or smells good. Because to me, one of the huge things about bringing flowers into a home or a building is that scent. The scent is just
Absolutely. We're on
spectacular.
the verge of peonies happening. Lily of the Valley. Lily of the Valley
Yes.
is in bloom right now. My sister-in-law lives across the street from me, and she was like, "Hey, I have Lily of the Valley. Go pick some." So I picked it, and I just sat there and held it. I held the little vase by my face while I was working on the computer because it's just that fragrance is amazing. One of my favorite flowers is freesia. And
Hmm.
I like freesia, and I always tell everybody freesia smells like Fruit Loops, and that's why I like it. And then gardenias too. I love gardenias. I love peonies. The iris, the bearded iris, right now too, have smells that remind me of Memorial Day. Because as a kid, we did 2,000 bouquets for the cemetery every year.
Oh my goodness,
And we would
2,000.
take them out. My dad and grandpa and my brother-in-law and I would go out and we would place those on Sunday morning before Memorial Day. And we would cover two cemeteries, and we were just like the little machines. My dad would find the grave, and my brother-in-law would fill up the vase with water and clean off the grave, and I would put the flowers in there. And when I smell the peonies and the iris, it makes me think of those days. And we would go back to the house, and mom would have a pancake breakfast for us too. And then we would go back out and deliver more, and then we would drive through the cemetery to see all the flowers. And I think that that's just a really cool part about, some of the memories that I have coming from a fourth generation family flower shop. So,
Well, and you bring up again another perfect point about why people should enjoy flowers in some form, and that is those memories. Because my earliest memory of flowers was a little round garden in our backyard. My mother loved flowers. I don't
okay.
ever remember growing a vegetable at home, but the great big asters that really don't want to live in Nebraska. They're sort of a Michigan
Right.
East Coast kind of a thing in purple and pink. And I was probably 4, maybe. And so, of course, for all of my adult life, I've been growing flowers in some form or picking them and bringing them in. And, I have sons, and sons have wives, and now I have granddaughters, and they are also flower people. And those memories that, they're either triggered by scent or by an experience, and if there are flowers involved in it, that brings people back to those memories, which is just so cool, way so cool.
I think that's the best. Every week so I have the Mr. Rogers thing. I want to make sure that I respond to all the emails that I get and all the letters that I get, and so I take my time and I do that, and I enjoy every second of it. But what's so interesting is those similar stories, just like the one that you told about the asters, how each person has that connection to flowers. And I always joke that you can't ruin someone's day by giving them flowers. They're always just like, "Oh, flowers for me? Sure, I'll take them." And I spent a whole lot of my childhood on the delivery trucks, and I loved that because you got to see the people's faces. And I always joke, this is my advice for guys for Valentine's Day, is deliver the flowers yourself.
Right.
Because I always got to see what your girlfriend and your wife or got all excited and how much they would hug me and kiss me sometimes. You need to get that. You could deliver them yourself. Because that look on those people's face and the experience that you have is amazing.
Well,
It's really
and again, it's a flower. It's like this living thing, and there's color involved, and there's form, and there's the unexpected, especially if it is. Well, sure, I always get flowers for Valentine's Day, but who cares? If you get flowers for Valentine's Day, it's like, okay, when are those flowers going to show up, and what are they going to be? So
and if
just
you
fabulous.
didn't get them, there would be no pie.
No pie. There would be no
if you
dinner
didn't
for a
get
very long time in my household. So
Right.
yep, no, exactly. So Jay, one of the things that the new that's been a trend for 2 or 3 years now is succulents
Yes.
and houseplants. So, not normally do people buy them for the flower, because let's face it, the flowers on some of those are really weird. But so talk a little bit about, form and color and how that really helps people respond in different ways to being happy and healthy.
Well, I think, the interesting thing about the succulents is that they do have weird and odd shapes, and typically they're very vibrant colors.
Hmm.
And most often with a succulent, there's not a pleasant fragrance
Right.
because they're dependent on predators
Mm.
and flies and things like that to be attracted to them. So they'll generally be the color of meat, and
Exactly.
so then they'll smell kind of funny. So I mean, I think that that's interesting. But the other thing about a succulent is that in feng shui, the succulent is a symbol of coins and richness and wealth.
Hmm.
And so I put succulents with the echeveria with the little petals like that in certain areas in my house to help encourage that. Now, the one thing that you want to remember though is if you have a succulent that's spiky, don't put that in the relationship area of your house because it will bring that thorniness to the relationship. So that's a good thing.
Right.
Now, remember, all right, so then as far as the plants go, here's the thing that's so amazing to me. We have an episode coming up in season 3 that you guys will be showing in a few weeks about houseplants. And one of the things that we talk about is how there are certain houseplants that will help clean the air in your home. They take all of the toxins out, they exchange the CO2 that we emit and turn it into oxygen. And there are specific varieties like Sansevieria, cornplant, monstera, that if we put them in our bedrooms will give us more sound sleep. I have 5 different plants in my bedroom, and they're cornplant, monstera, sansevieria, and I go crazy for monstera. So just so you know, I have a lot of monsteras in my house because I love that plant specifically. But it helps me sleep better, and having them here. One of the things that NASA found out was sending plants into space allowed it to clean the air in the space station. And with a plant, there was nothing to break down and there was nothing that needed to be repaired. And there was no parts that they had to worry about. Simply the plant just does its business. And it's so great because, when you have new carpeting or you have new paint in your home, you're going to have some toxins that come along with those, but plants take care of them, absorb them, get rid of them for you. And so this new fascination with houseplants, I think, is really interesting. And they talk about the fact that for some people, the houseplants can be like a surrogate child,
Right.
because they do want to take care of it, and they want to nurture it, and they want to do all those things and know that it's okay. And there's not as much of a risk, with a plant than there is with a baby. So
Or
there's
with a
that.
puppy.
With the puppy, true, true, true. A plant will not chew up your shoes.
Or puddle on the carpet unless you overwater it and it spills out of the saucer.
Right, right, right.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. So you really in what you do with all of your, fabulous ways to work with plants, flowers in particular, it's everything from cooking to art to crafting to the living elements. Of all of those, if you were to choose one that you absolutely, if you had to give up everything else you do with flowering plants or flowers or plants, what would be the one that you would say, this one I must do forever?
Arrange flowers every day. I
Every
arrange
day.
flowers every day.
And what are
I
your
have
tips for people to arrange them?
so you know what? That's part of my gardening
Hmm.
influence because
Hmm.
in the wintertime, obviously we're in Michigan, so we're like you in Nebraska. There's not a lot of flowers outside. So then I'm picking up flowers at my flower sellers, and flower sellers can be my professional florist. It can be a grocery store. It can be someone, it can be online. There's all sorts of options that you have there. In the summer, we also have farmers markets, things like that, local farms. There's lots of local farms in Nebraska that are growing flowers too, which is really cool. But then in my garden, I have the term arrange plant. Everything I have in my garden can be cut and used in flower arrangements. That's my specification. So I don't plant things that can't be cut and used in flower arrangements. And people have this fascination. They're like, I must see your garden. Your garden must be so magical. And it is magical. I think that's true. But I'm also cutting off of stuff. So like this week, I had tree peonies, my tree peonies right back here.
Hmm.
And I had 60 tree peonies. So I made bouquets and I passed them out to friends. I passed them out to my family. I've cut them myself. And as they're coming on and they're opening up, I'm cutting them and putting them in another arrangement. And I love that because I think I've created a ritual. I think that I read a book that talks about artist rituals, and that one of my rituals is taking time for myself to cut those flowers and put them in a vase. The thing that's the most important is that you please yourself. I know that a lot of people feel intimidated and they're like, what should I do? What do I do? And you have to jump in and do it, but the shortcut is a friend. If you cut a flower shorter, it's going to fit in a vase better than leaving it long. I like people to take their time, to put on their favorite music, to get a cup of coffee, to get a glass of wine, whatever that might be, and enjoying placing those flowers in there. Because when we do that, part of Dr. Haviland Jones' research was that when we place the flowers in the vases, our body secretes endorphins that make us feel more zen-like, make us feel happier, make us feel less depressed. And so it's really a part of that antidepressant for me is being able to arrange flowers. And then knowing too that when you're in the garden and you're digging, there are literally the little bacteria that get under our fingernails are actually antidepressants that are absorbed into our nail beds that make us feel happier when we're digging. So that's why when we're gardening, we feel great,
I think you just gave me a great excuse to never wear gardening gloves because I never do.
Oh, right. I want to get that dirt under my fingernails, I mean, it's great. It's so good for us.
Exactly. Well, and right now you mentioned peonies, and in Lincoln, or in eastern Nebraska at least, the peonies are actually maybe going to be still flowering by Memorial Day. Some of them are beginning. And some of those plants that we use, again, the nostalgia about them, they're
Right.
also so long-lived. So certainly annuals are fabulous because you change your mind or something new comes
Right.
out. But, those stalwart plants in the garden that are almost shrub-like that you can cut something off of and enjoy. And I love that you're willing to cut your tree peonies. There are people who just protect
I mean,
those
it's just
flowers.
like, we got to cut those. We got to get them off there.
Yeah.
So my favorite for Nebraskans, this is my favorite thing about Nebraska, the liatris, the
Oh,
gay feather, which is a long spike purple flower,
right.
was hybridized for cut flower production by Dr. Jay Fitzgerald at the University of Nebraska in Lincoln.
In the Department of Horticulture.
Correct.
Yes.
Do you know Dr. Jay? Do you know Jay Fitzgerald?
Oh, sure I do. I started teaching when he was still on campus. Yep.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So, I love that. And I have liatris in my yard just for that reason, because it's a Nebraska legacy for me. And I think that, and they have the purple liatris and the white liatris that they've developed. And it's still a standby, and it grows so great in our garden here in Michigan. I love that that's a midsummer thing. That's a midsummer thing. So, yeah.
Well, and our backyard farmer garden has, we call it the rain chain, 5 different gardens in it. And the liatris has seeded itself and been carried about by critters. And, it's our native, and it'll stand 6 feet tall. And then, of course, here come the pollinators. So you get with the flowers all of that movement that is the flutterers in addition to that. Just fabulous. That's a great story, too, to know that, in Michigan, you've got something from here.
Absolutely. The other thing I have here is tall purples. And so that's viburnum. And I call it Viburnum globiosa, and that's not right because because I'm not an expert at that stuff. And so Brandyanthus, something like that. Okay, so that viburnum, it reseeds itself, and it's a swallowtail attractor.
Nice.
And so we let it go last year in the garden, and we had thousands of stems of it.
Isn't that great?
Everywhere.
That's just
And so
great.
it's reseeded itself. It's starting to come up again now. So now I'm going to have to thin it out.
Verbena bonariensis. That's what you're thinking about.
That's
Verbena.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Look at how good you are. See,
Yeah.
I'm that
Jay,
thing there.
we have just a little bit of time left. I want you to talk again about your Life in Bloom series. Tell our audience about that, where they can see it. and so that we
Okay.
can make sure we promote that and get to have as much of you as we can get.
I believe it's on Saturdays at 11 a.m. I think that's right, if I remember correctly, on Nebraska Public Media. And I appreciate that. My mother's very excited. Season 3, I think you started last week. So we've got 13 brand new episodes. We are going into the studio on Monday morning here in Michigan, and we are filming season 4. So we're getting ready for that. You can also see it if you want to catch back episodes that we have it also on our website, ubloom.com. And if you click on the Life in Bloom logo on the front page, you can go watch any of the shows that have aired so far. And you can also check out, that's where our recipes are. That's where our Behind the Bloom series is, which is like this, where we delve a little bit deeper with some of the people or some fun stuff that we couldn't show on the show. And then we also have bios for our guests and things like that. So you can learn more. And of course, Flower Cocktail Hour, because every show we have a Flower Cocktail Hour. And that's what we do at 5 o'clock here in Michigan. I make a flower arrangement, and Kelly and I have a cocktail, and we talk about our day and what went wrong, what went right. And it's just our way to unwind and be, now it's on the deck. We get to do it on the deck because the weather's nice. So yeah.
I love it. And unfortunately, that is really all the time we have for Digging Deeper with Backyard Farmer. I can't thank you enough, Jay, for coming in and talking to us. And we will, of course, be back again. Do be sure to watch Backyard Farmer live every Thursday at 7 p.m. Central on Nebraska Public Media. Thanks for digging deeper with Backyard Farmer. I'm looking forward to actually seeing those dimples in person.